So for those of you joining online or joining for the first time today, we're going to be doing this is an hour class, and we're going to be exploring Zen Yoga. So Zen Yoga is the meeting between Japanese Zen practice, Zen Buddhism, and yoga practice, movement practice. In Japan, in Zen, they like to call it Do-Zen. So Zazen is what people often associate with Zen. Za means sitting, Zen means meditation, and Do-Zen, Do means action or movement. So this is kind of meditation in action or in movement. So we're lying on the ground, just resting. And when our body is reasonably quiet and still, it gives us a real opportunity to tune in to just how you're feeling. So just listening in, noticing the hubbub of sensations and thoughts that are moving through your body. Now this is the absolute foundation. As I say every time, the foundation of our yoga practice is our awareness and our ability to stay present with our sensations, with our experience. So we're going to be practicing for this next hour, doing our very best to stay in the present moment, doing our best not to judge what we find to be particularly good or bad or right or wrong. So with that foundation established, let's move the hands down by your side, palms face down to the floor. We're going to just feel your fingertips on the yoga mat, and if you slide your fingers down towards your feet, you'll feel your arms being pulled really long. And now if we bring the hands up off the floor, up towards the ceiling, and then if we carry on going right up over the top of your head until your arms feel comfortably high above your head, maybe it's on the floor, give yourself a nice long stretch. So a little bit like you wake up in the morning and you're giving yourself a really nice deep stretch. And then when you're ready, next time you breathe out, take the hands up to the ceiling and then down by your side. And just resting the hands down, let's take a moment to just ask yourself, well, what is that very simple movement? How has it affected my body? Does it feel different in some way? Okay, next time you breathe in, take the hands up to the ceiling, up over the top of your head. And then as you breathe out, bringing the hands back down to the floor. So we're going to work with the breath and this movement. 5 breaths, breathing in, arms lifting, and breathing out, arms lowering. So we're in the middle of a sequence of classes. We're going to be looking at what in Zen they call the Paramitas. Paramita is a quality or characteristic that we're encouraged to develop to help us along the path to Buddhahood, towards enlightenment. Breathing in, arms lifting. Breathing out, arms lowering. Once you've done your 5 or somewhere around 5, you can let your hands come to rest down. And then asking yourself, well, what's different now? What can I feel now? And the next time you breathe in, again, arms coming up over the top of your head. This time, as you breathe out, bring the hands in front of your body, so just hovering in front of your legs. And then we're going to reach down towards your toes. Let the shoulders lift, let the head lift. So we're now looking at the toes with the head up off the ground. So bring the attention down into the center of the body, which in Japanese they call the hara, the belly. So last week we were considering the first of the 6 paramitas, which is generosity or dana offering, generosity. This week we're going to be looking at the next one, which is ethics, what they call Sila in Sanskrit. So ethics or morality. It's a big topic. Right, so breathing in, hands lifting. Up over the top of the head, nice long stretch. Include the legs, long stretch. And then breathing out, hands coming to hover over your legs again. Reach down towards your toes, let the head come up off the ground. Bring the hands a little bit over the right leg lifts in between, holding onto the leg. Let your head come down to the floor. So very gently holding this leg and extending your foot up towards the ceiling. So basically, what at its root, the Buddhist ethics is all about non-harming at the fundamental level. What we can do to make our life one of not causing harm. And in our yoga practice, we're very much directing that intention towards ourselves. So it's really important, as I mention every class, that we only go as far as what is comfortable. We're not forcing, and we're certainly being very respectful of our body's signals as we go through. We are practicing non-harming. So here we're going to point the toes and then press the leg forwards into your hands and see if you can roll yourself up to sitting. Maybe you need to rock and roll forwards and backwards a couple of times to come up. Yeah. Bending that right leg. Hands come around behind, fingers face forwards. And then from a little bit bent elbows, we're going to press from the hands to the chest, tilting the head, looking up. So nice deep breath, expanding the front of the chest. And then we're going to lift just the wrists up off the ground, so we stretch the hands, the fingers. And if we bring the hands now around and in front, around the leg, just let your head drop down. So just hanging the head. So we start to encounter our body. We start to encounter the stiff parts, the restrictions. We also encounter all of the different sensations. And we start to have the opportunity to direct this attitude towards ourselves. Not harming. Okay, looking up, taking hold of the knee and rolling back. 2 hands around the knee and just gently moving it in towards your chest. Now, of course, there's more to ethics than just non-harming. That's at the root, so we can maybe explore some of the other themes. Well, let's take the knee and just the right hand. So right knee, right hand out to the right side, so opening out the hip. And then moving it back to the center. We're going to do that 2 more times. So move the knee out to the right and back to the center. And out to the right. Now as the knee comes back into the center, this time use the other hand to bring it across the body and roll over into a twist. So the knee comes down towards the floor and our right hand comes out at shoulder height, stretching out in the opposite direction. And then you turn the head, if you like, to look away from your knee. So another key principle that we find as we explore our body and explore our practice is what the Buddha described as karma. In fact, actually, karma as a principle existed before the Buddha. So karma is basically the effect of the actions we take. So here, it's very obvious. We come into a twist, and the effect is a sense of stretch. Sometimes it's a sense of, oh, this is delicious, this is lovely. Sometimes it's a sense of, oh, I've gone a bit too far, oh, really touching into some discomfort. But we see the effect. Now the right hand, the outstretched hand, is going to come up to the ceiling and over to the left so that the hand is on the same side as your knee. And then if we take the bent knee and start to move it out straight and behind the body, and then we're going to pivot on the hip and we're going to spiral around like this, spiral around, so this leg comes round behind, we come around and up into sitting like that. That's it. So now we're in a zigzag, okay? Sole of the foot touches top of the knee. We're going to carry on twisting, look around behind. So this law of cause and effect is very important in understanding what it is that causes harm. Our actions have consequences. It's very obvious, right? But some of them are quite subtle. Back to the center, and then we'll come all the way around in the other direction. So just noticing, what's the consequence of this movement? What's the effect in your body? And then back to the center. We'll take the back leg here out 45 degrees, and then we're going to come all the way across, taking hold of the outside of the long leg here, and we'll twist again, looking over right shoulder. It's like, oh, hello, body. Yeah, I'm really finding the corners now, finding the edges. Yeah, back to the center. Let's take the left hand around underneath the shoulder, right hand lifts. We're going to come right up on the hips here. And if you feel okay, maybe the top hand floats towards the back of the room, and we have a lengthening of the front, maybe even looking towards the back of the room. And then sinking the hips back down to the floor. Like a seesaw, we're going to reach out to the long leg, and that's going to pull the other hand up, right? So here, fine to bend the knee, just letting the hand float palm face up, coming into a side bend. And then if we bring the top hand down, we're going to take hold of the bottom foot and just help it out into a nice wide V shape here. And then we're going to come forward. So you might find it's better to have your hands behind. You might find it's okay to have your hands in front. You might find you need to bend the knees a bit. So just kind of come forwards. We're only going to have a couple of breaths here. Okay, and then breathing in, reach the hands forwards, and then up. Nice deep breath in as you come all the way up, 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 and out and down. Bring the hands behind, bend the knees, come in nice and close, take the knees forwards. Okay, you're going to lift the hips, and if you like, you can drop the head back, and really think about lifting and lengthening front of the body with the knees wide. And then hips back down to the floor. Feet in the middle, hands in front, roll back. Resting back down to the ground, just take a little moment with the hands resting and ask, okay, so what's the effect? Karma is our intentional actions. It's intentional. It's not something which happens by accident. This is our choice and the effect of those choices. And of course, when we're trying to think of our ethics, this is all it's all about. Breathing in, the hands lifting right up over the top of the head. Breathing out, hands coming in front of your legs. Reach down towards your toes, let the head come up off the floor. Hands come over the left leg this time, left leg comes up in between, holding on. Let the head come down to the floor, and then just gently extend this leg up. Now, you might find for your leg, you want to be holding way down in the thigh. You might find for your leg, you can come up higher, maybe even higher than the knee, maybe even right up to the ankle. Just depends on your body, your level of flexibility It's not right or wrong or better or worse. We just find what's appropriate. So pointing the foot up towards the ceiling, pressing the leg forwards, and then roll yourself up to sitting. Generally speaking, the higher up the leg is, the harder it is to get up. Lower down is easier. Yeah. Okay, good. Bending the left leg, hands around behind, fingers face forwards, and then bending the elbows, press from the hands through to the chest, tilting the head. If you like, here we can bend the elbows and squeeze them in towards each other, just to help really expand the front, roll the shoulders back. Nice deep breath in, and then lift the wrists up off the ground, stretch the hands, and then just wrap the hands around the lower leg, forehead melting down towards your knee. Breathing in, looking forwards. Take the knee, roll back. 2 hands around the knee, holding the knee, maybe if you like, bringing it down towards your chest. And then taking the knee in just your left hand, moving the knee out to the left side, opening out the hip, and moving it back to the center. Yeah, so 2 more times. Roll the knee out to the side, back to the center. And then on the 3rd time, when it comes back to the center, we'll use the other hand to bring the knee right over the body and down towards the floor, extending left hand out at shoulder height. Now, in the Zen tradition, our ethics get codified in what people call the precepts. So the precepts are worded like, I undertake the precept or the intention not to kill. That will be the first one. So what does that mean in this position, in this posture, not to kill? So we're not really talking about killing other life forms, but we might be thinking about killing like as in not forcing, not pushing, not injuring ourselves, but also not killing our passion or our enjoyment. So the outstretched left hand, we're going to pull it up to the ceiling and bring it over to the right. And then we take the top leg, we swing it round behind, we pivot around, spiral up into sitting. Yeah. So both legs now zigzag on the other side. And then we just carry on turning. We just twist and look around behind. Turning and breathing. And then we'll come back to the center and we'll go the other way around. Really listening in to the whole range of sensations that arise when we turn like this. And then back to the center. Okay, taking the back leg out 45 degrees, and then we'll come across the body and take the outside of the leg. And twisting again, this time over the left shoulder. Twist and maybe a little bit lean forward. You can also slide the hand down your leg if you like. Get a bit of a forwards bend as well in this. Okay, and then back to the center. Here the right hand comes around behind, underneath the shoulder. And then we come up to the ceiling. Yeah. And then we just kind of explore, what does the front of my body, what would it like to do here? What feels really beneficial? How would I not force things, but also not kill this sense of enjoyment in this moment? Yeah, and then sinking back down to the floor. So like a seesaw, we reach out to the long leg and we pull the other hand up, palm face up, just leaning in, side bend. And then the top hand comes down, takes hold of the bottom foot, and just helps it out into a big wide V shape, yeah? Yeah, again, fine to have a bend in the knee as you come in the forwards direction, using your hands, whatever you need to help with that, yeah? So the second of the precepts, we have 10 precepts. Let's see if we can get through them in the class, yeah? Second precept, not to steal. So that's maybe a bit more obvious. So how do we not steal from ourselves? How do we offer ourselves what we need and not shortchange ourselves or just in this position here, how is it to just offer what we need, not take anything away that feels necessary, that's not good. Okay, so taking the hands forwards, nice breath in, we reach up to the ceiling, out to the side and around behind. We're going to bend the knees, bring them in close, and then take the knees. Now this, if you want, next version, if you want to take the knees a little bit over the legs and down towards the floor, and then drop the head back. Just if you feel that's going to be helpful to extend the stretch. And then dropping the hips, rolling them back down to the floor, taking the feet in front, hands in front, rolling back onto the floor. So a little moment just to rest on the ground and asking, well, what's the effect? What's the changes in my body now that we've done it on both sides? Yeah, next time you breathe in, hands lifting up over the top of the head. Breathing out, hands hovering over the legs, reaching towards the toes and letting the head come up off the ground, looking at the toes. Here we're going to pause here, 5 breaths. Yeah, our mind, our attention comes into the center, into our belly. Now we're going to see if we can come up to sitting from here, which means basically looking at your toes and then reaching towards them and seeing if that can bring us up. Now, a little bit elbows can be helpful, or maybe turn to the side, whatever you need to bring yourself up. Yeah, nice, okay, good. And then bending the legs, bringing them in, wrapping your heads around your knees, let your head drop down. Next precept is not to lie. Now, one of the lovely things about the way they're introduced in Zen is, or in Buddhism in general, is that it's our practice to determine where our line is. So what it is not to lie. We're all going to make a decision about maybe this lie is appropriate, maybe this lie is definitely not appropriate, maybe I never lie, or so what does that even mean? So it's our practice to find for ourselves what that means for us. Okay, looking up. So we're going to come up to standing. So feet hip width apart, standing nice and tall. Taking the right hand up over the top of the head, palm face up. Other hand comes underneath, holds the wrist, and then we're going to come into a side bend. So if you look up towards the ceiling, underneath the arm, just tuning in. Here's the side of my body. What does it feel like? What feels appropriate? How can I listen to what my body is saying without telling myself a lie? I mean, it's one of the things we discover over the time we practice, that we actually tell ourselves quite a lot of mistruths or misperceptions. Oh, I'm like this, I'm like that. Actually, is that true anymore? Is that me? Okay, I'm going to drop the bottom hand out of the way, and then the top hand swings like this, out, round, and up. And then look up towards the ceiling, and then lift up, come up to upright, all the way up, 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 One hand comes on the side of your thigh, and then we come into a side bend. So just imagining you're between two panes of glass, and you're just sliding to the side. One more breath. Good. Breathing in, coming up to upright. Hands drop to the side, maybe eyes closed for a moment, and just asking, how do you feel? Good. And then coming up here, left hand, palm face up, come underneath, hold the wrist, and then we come into the side. Look up underneath the arm towards the ceiling. Hello side of my body. Yeah. So of course, not lying, but also that involves telling the truth. Telling yourself the truth about yourself, about what you find. This is not appropriate. This is too much. This is too deep. Those kinds of things. No, I really want to do this, says the head. And my body says, no, this is not right. So it's listening to that truth. And then we're going to let the bottom hand drop away, top hand swings down, round and up. Look up to the ceiling, reach up and come all the way up, up, up. Hand on the side of the thigh and then sliding between your two panes of glass. Good, one more breath. And then we'll come up to upright, hand to the side. Your eyes lowered, maybe closed for a moment, and just asking, how do you feel? What's the effect? Eyes lifting. Good. Okay, so we're going to turn sideways, going to turn and face this direction. Yep. And then if we take the feet out a medium step wide and turn the toes to face out 45 degrees. And then if we bring one hand onto your belly, one hand onto your lower back, we're going to sink down into what they call a horse stance, which basically means the knees go out in line with the toes, out to the side. Yeah. Now, the knees want to line up with your toes. So if you just have a look down and just adjust your feet to really face in the same direction as your thighs. And the idea of the hands here is to stop us from tilting or tucking, okay? So we don't want to be tilting forwards or sticking a bum out or leaning backwards or whatever. We just want to be nice and upright in the upper body. When you've got that, you can release your hands onto your legs, yeah? Okay, so we're going to be here for a few breaths, sinking as far down as your body feels like it wants to. Yeah, as a part of our sense of listening and being honest and truthful with ourselves, what is the right level of challenge in this position? Yeah. Sending the knees backwards. Okay, so really opening through the front of your legs, knees moving backwards. So let's see if we can do another 5 breaths here. Your eyes might be looking in one direction, but your attention, your awareness, is inside. Okay, that's about 5 breaths. We're going to take the heels, spin them out, so that we end up with a wider stance and the toes face slightly in. And then if we bend the knees and come forwards, bring the hands down to the ground, let the head release down. So the next precept in our list, not to abuse intoxicants. Intoxicants come in many, many forms. Not just drugs and chemicals, but also crap TV and gossip might be classed as an intoxicant. Getting distracted on scrolling, doom scrolling, there's another one. Or any kind of, You get what I mean? Lots of things like that. So those are things that we're maybe outside of our yoga, but what about in our yoga? How do we not abuse intoxicants here in our yoga practice? So maybe it's about all of the things I've been mentioning, making sure we're honest and we're really listening, and we have this intention of non-harming. So we're going to bring the right hand underneath your face, and the left hand sweeps around and up towards the ceiling. Yeah. So end up facing me. That's it. Facing the front. Okay, so if you have a bend in your legs, make sure you have the same bend in both legs. It's fine to have a bend in the legs. Turning, looking up. And then breathing out, coming down. So we're going to turn the feet back out 45 degrees. And then you're going to sink towards the front, so towards me, the front end of the mat, bending towards the front. And now using your hands for support as you come down, the long back leg is going to extend, foot flat on the ground. Yeah. Fine also to be up here with your elbow on your knee, to sink down. And Monica, if you turn your back foot out towards the back as well, that's it. There we go, yeah. And sinking down, yeah. So finding the right level of stretch that's going to work for your body. Good. One more breath. And then if we bring the hands to the front of the mat, turn the feet so that your back knee comes down on the ground. Yeah. Untuck your back toes. Come up for a moment on the front knee and just make sure we've got the front knee over the front foot. That's it. Good. Breathing in, hands lifting. Nice deep breath in as the elbows bend and the chest expands. And then as you breathe in next, hands up, breathing out, hands down. So fingertips on the ground, hips move backwards. And then bring the chin underneath so that your chin is coming to your chest. Bend the knee, coming forwards. Good. So here we're going to take the back foot. We're going to bring it across the mat into a diagonal. Yeah. So ideally we end up resting on the inside of this knee here, not on the kneecap. Yeah. It's much more comfortable if we're not on the actual kneecap. Okay. And then if we come up onto the front knee here, this knee here it's easy for it to move inwards. We're going to see if we can move it forwards, straight forwards, and just have a sink into it here. Yeah. So we're moving towards the springtime, and we're working with the liver energy line here. This liver energy line comes up the inside of the leg. That's why we're doing this. Okay, and then hands to the front of the mat. Realign the back foot, stepping forwards. We're going to slide up the legs, let the head be the last thing that comes up. Good. Stepping wide, facing the other direction. So you may end up on this online here, facing away from your screen, but it's the same thing as we did, and you just listen in, if you like. Yeah. So feet medium width apart, toes facing out 45 degrees, hand on your belly, hand on your lower back. Keeping the upper body upright as you just sink down. So bend the knees out wide. So we're going to be here a little bit longer now. So please listen and find the level of depth that's going to be appropriate. Going to be 10 breaths. Working the knees out and back. So nice and smooth, even, regular breaths. Next precept is not to indulge in inappropriate sexuality. It's much more of a personal precept. Maybe sometimes it comes up in our yoga, maybe not so much. Next precept, not to be mean, not to withhold. Basically, we come back to what we were talking about last week, is the idea of generosity. So to be generous. That must be about 10 breaths, huh? Something like that. Okay, so let's spin the feet out. So the toes are facing in slightly, and then we'll come into a forward bend. Release the head, let it just dangle down. I quite like the wording of that one. Don't be mean. I mean, it's the kind of thing you say to a kid, but it's really quite deep. Don't be mean. And here this is all about don't be mean with yourself. Don't think of yourself in an inappropriate way or tell yourself hurtful things. Don't withhold what you need. Be generous. And then if we bring the left hand underneath your face on the ground, right hand sweeps around and up, twisting to face up. Keeping your hand within your field of vision, so not letting it go beyond. Okay, one more breath. And then floating back down. So we're going to turn the feet out again 45 degrees, and then if we just sink towards the front of the mat, so coming towards me, sink towards me, that's it. Bending the front leg and letting the back leg stay straight. Both hands on the floor if you like, or if you like, one hand on the knee for support. Yeah. Very easy for the knee to fall inwards. Again, just checking the knee and the toes remain aligned. Yeah. And if you feel you can come right the way down, that's also possible. Okay, and then if we bring the hands to the front of the mat, turn the feet so that the back knee comes down to the ground, untuck the back toes, and then when you're ready, bringing the hands up. Nice deep breath in as the elbows bend and chest expands. And then breathing in to lift, breathing out, float down. Hands on the floor, hips move backwards, and then the chin tucks underneath, and we curl underneath. Bend the front knee, come forwards. Now, we take the back foot, we're going to bring it across into a diagonal, somewhere across the mat, yeah. And if we just rest here on the front knee, make sure that the knee tracks forwards, bends forwards. Just tuning in, so what's the effect of this posture? Where do you feel the sensation? Good. And then the hands down to the floor, aligning the back foot, stepping forwards. Rolling up with the head being the last thing that comes up. Once you're up to upright, just let your eyes lower, closing them if you like, and just sensing. Okay, eyes lifting. So we're going to come down to the floor, sitting down, and then if we bring the right leg out long, and bring the left foot tucking it in. Yeah. So we're facing the V shape here, not facing the long leg. We're facing in the middle of the V. And it's fine to have a little bend in the knee if you want. So we're going to see reaching the hands up. And then we're going to start with a round back. So almost like we're diving forwards. The whole spine rounds, the hands come down. We touch the mat, and then we're going to slide the hands a little bit forwards. Now it might just be that we've got very little movement here. It might just be we've got a bit of movement, and the idea is to lengthen the front of the body. Now be really aware your hips want to be level. So one hip tends to want to lift up here, keeping the hips level, and then just pausing. Next precept, do not criticise. So it's written, do not criticise others, but others, of course, can include ourselves. And this comes back to the idea of not lying, being truthful. We know that if we criticise ourselves, it becomes a habit, a thought habit, and we start to see ourselves. Often use the example, when you're young, someone told you you've got a big nose. You haven't got a big nose, but someone said that. And then by the time you're a teenager, it's kind of, you're really worried about it. By the time you're mid-20s, you've earned enough money to get an operation. It becomes a reality for you, whether or not you have a big nose or not, right? That's the way it works. Good. So just a couple more breaths here. Breathing in, send the hands forwards and lift. And then out and down. So switching it over. Reach up, and then we dive. So round down to the ground, touch the floor, and then we slide the hands forwards in a way kind of like lengthening a little bit the front of the body. Maybe you could also think about crown of the head moving away from your tail. And if you find one hip is starting to lift, just back up a bit out of the stretch, bend the knee if you need, and then just resting here. The next precept in Zen that we can consider is not to belittle others or boast of your attainments. Often meet people in the yoga world who subtly, maybe potentially unconsciously boast of their attainments. You see it a lot on Instagram. This is our personal practice. This is just for us. There is no achievement. There is just the journey. Two more breaths. And then looking forward, slide the hands forwards. Nice breath in as you reach up. And then out and down. So we're going to take now both legs out into a V shape. And one little trick that's sometimes helpful is to lift the tail and then press the feet a little bit wider and then just drop down. It might just be that that's taking you a little bit, that's a bit much. And then in which case, coming out nice to bend the knees. Yeah. And then with this board movement, the hands behind to help us to move forwards, or indeed the hands in front. But we'll first all lift the hands. Yeah, and then diving forwards. Once the hands come in contact with the mat, just readjust them to give you support, or slide the hands forwards and get that sense of lengthening crown of the head away from your tail. This is a posture right here. In fact, all the ones we've been doing, that was really important to be honest and kind and truthful with ourselves about what feels beneficial. How can we offer ourselves the benefit of yoga without being forceful or harmful? 2 more breaths. And then we're going to look forwards, slide the hands forwards, reach up. Nice deep breath in as you come up, and then out and down. I'm going to hook the hands underneath the knees and bring the legs in with the hands. And if we bring the soles of the feet together, bringing them up towards your body. Yeah. Now there's different places we can work with this. You can have the feet a little bit further away. It's quite nice. We've been thinking about the liver energy line. It works well to have the feet a little bit further away to bring that into focus. Or indeed, if you'd rather bring them in, tuck them in close, that's also fine. Yeah. So if you can, reach up. And then we're going to dive forwards, rounding the back. Hands come to land on the mat. Maybe they come in towards your feet. Maybe you want to hold your feet if you like, or not. And then have a think about what it might be to extend the crown of the head away from your tail, lengthening the front of your body, finding a place which is going to be sustainable. So the 9th precept, not to harbour anger, not to hold on to emotions, basically. Yes, emotions come, emotions go. But if we hold on, and sometimes it feels like we want to hold on, we don't want to let it go. All it's doing is harming ourselves. That emotion sits in our body, swirling around. So very much part of our physical work is about letting go. We appreciate that the body, their emotions, and our thoughts are not distinct and separate things. They're in one system. When we let go physically, we let go emotionally and mentally. It all happens together. Two more breaths. And then we're going to look forwards, take the hands forwards. And if it feels okay to you, just to reach the hands forwards and up, breathing in. And then out and down. We use the hands to bring the knees in. If you separate the feet a little bit and just let the knees move side to side. And then we're going to come to rest down on the mat. So now would be a chance to put on extra layers, socks, jumpers, whatever you need. Yeah. Now, before we get totally comfortable, from this lying down position, I'm going to offer you the possibility for just a few minutes here to make any movements that your body might want to do. So there is no right or wrong. There is no direction. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But just from this position, there might be something in your body is like, I quite fancy. Or maybe it's just a sense of like, well, I'll try this. And then does that feel good? Does that feel nice? Is that a good direction? Maybe it's with the legs, maybe with your arms. Maybe you want to roll over. Just making some small movements. If you do a movement on one side, like say the left side, doesn't necessarily mean you need to do it on the right as well. Just if your body asks for it. So this is part of our being truthful and really listening in. Or it might just be that your body says, hey, you know what? I quite fancy just lying still. And I know we're going to be lying still some more in a minute, but I actually quite like to do all of this time lying still. And that's fine. That's fine. This is our last precept, is to honor what they call in Buddhism the triple treasure, which is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. To honor our Buddha nature, our true nature. I mean, in Zen they call it the Buddha nature, but I mean in lots of traditions they call it different names. Our true selves, just to be ourselves. This is what we're doing now. We're honoring our true self by giving it the opportunity to express, do, move, stretch, or just be still. We're honoring the teaching, the Dharma, as it's been passed down to us through all the centuries via the Zen and the yoga and all sorts of other traditions. And then if you feel good, maybe gradually coming to rest, letting the body start to rest back, lying on your back. Feel free to have your knees bent and your feet on the ground or the legs out straight. Feel free to rest your hands on your belly or have them down by your side. And the third of our triple treasure, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The Sangha meaning the community of people who practice together. And here we are a community. There is a few of us here in the room, and then a few people also joining online, making a community. We also have people who come to the class who maybe are not here today, but they come regularly other times. That's also, they're part of our community. And then we also have bigger and bigger rings of community, our family, our friends, colleagues, people on the street, people in this area, people around the world who practice this kind of stuff. So perhaps we can lie here just for these next few minutes, appreciating this community of people around the world, nearby and far away, who have that same intention, not to cause any harm, to really listen to the effects of their intentional actions, what in Zen they call karma. Not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to abuse intoxicants, not to commit inappropriate sexuality, not to be mean, not to criticize others, not to boast or belittle other people, not to hold on to emotions and harbour anger, and to honour our true self and the community of people who practice together. The second of our Paramitas. just making sure that your body feels really soft. You're softening your face, your hands and your fingers. Your breath is softening. Appreciating that when we learn to apply these attitudes here in the class, on our mat, I mean, they call it a practice, right? So we're practicing for real life. We learn the art of doing it with ourselves, being kind, being truthful, so that then when we go out into the world, those qualities become who we are. We become a kinder person. So as we approach the end of our practice together, if you've been joining us together on the Insight Timer app, you may want to offer a donation in exchange for today's class. It's very easy, just click the donate button. That would be very appreciated. So we're going to begin to bring a little bit of movement back into the body, very gradually, perhaps starting with deepening the breath. Perhaps a little bit of a wiggle into the fingers and toes. And maybe rolling the head side to side if you like. Just small movements. And then when you feel ready, rolling over onto your right side. Once you've had a breath or two on the side, making a way up into sitting. Bring the hands together in front of your forehead. Take a little bow to honor your own practice today. Coming up here, making this diamond shape on top of the head. We lay that down over the crown. Coming out to the side, we scoop up a bit of the energy or space, bring it into the chest, and here we bow to all of us, the community, all of us here practicing together. And then from the chest, we go forwards and down to the floor, bowing and saying thank you to our teachers and all the people in history who have passed things down for us to learn today. So, thank you. Thanks. And thank you for joining online.